you make reference to Advocate McAdam's affidavit, where he says in his statement that the missing docket only comprised of an inquiry into unfounded rumours around one General Hankel, and in the inquest and TRC records, which were easily re-obtainable. And then you point out in your statement that, well, if that's all the docket contained, as suggested by Advocate McAdam, then it reflects that little or no investigation was taking place, because there, besides the publicly available records, there was next to nothing which suggested an investigation. And you say that means that there has been no real substantive investigation in this matter for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
When you learned that, what was the impact on you?
So, as I had mentioned earlier, Judge, we, from about 1995 onwards, when Madiba came to Cradock, we were certain that justice was going to come in some form or the other. But then nothing had happened. Absolutely nothing had happened. And when we were speaking to the NPA and McAdam and everybody else, and it became apparent to us that even the docket had gone missing, ma'am, it almost like snuffed most of the hope that we had, really, because it just proves that people weren't interested, that people didn't care. They were busy with democracy and corruption and all of those things, but they didn't care in terms of how we got that democracy.
So, moving on, it seems that you decided to take some steps. You point out in paragraph 172 of your statement why you decided to institute litigation in this matter. Perhaps you can read paragraph 172 into the record.
Page 172, paragraph 172 reads, some 2 years after liaising with the NPA and the DPCI and twice placing them on terms during 2020 to finalize the murder investigations, it became clear that the NPA and DPCI were making very little headway. The Cradock Four families instructed our lawyers to launch an application to court for an order compelling the authorities to finalize the missing docket investigation, as well as to take a decision on the murder case. This application was launched on 20 July 2021. That was to mark the 36th anniversary of the burial of the Cradock Four. Ma'am, can I just state also that by then I now had legal backing. I had lawyers, and I was basically prepared to give the government a punch in the nose because I didn't know what else to do. So, and that's what we set out to do.
So, through this process, you and the families were able to extract documentation from the NPA and DPCI in the course of the review process. And you set out in paragraph 174 that this disclosed the dire state of the investigations, but it did forced the prosecution and investigation teams to work closely with the family team. And that then resulted in the litigation being held in abeyance. But by then, suspects were elderly and dying off. And in fact, we'll get to that shortly. But you note the death in May 2023 of Hermanus Baron du Plessis, the last remaining suspect against whom there was a prima facie case. So with his death, talking of a punch in the nose, what was the impact on you hearing about that?
Judge, the death of Hermanus du Plessis was a punch in the gut. Because up until that point, there were still suspects where there was prima facie evidence against them that could be prosecuted. So, if I can just recall the day, Judge, when I went to the office and got to the office, set up, opened my laptop and then started working in there. Just as I was about to work, an email came in. And the email was from our lawyers from CDH, basically saying that Hermanus, the last suspect that we, for an actual prosecution had died. Now, up until then, ma'am, I was really operating like tunnel vision, like this, and I was just pushing for a prosecution of some kind, because that at that point would have been justice to us, someone being held accountable for the murders of the Cradock Four. I think by then, we had some encounters with Advocate Yanni Coltman, and he'll tell you, man, that sometimes I'm not a very easy person to deal with. So when I got that email, my heart started racing, like do. I struggled to breathe. I didn't I got drowsy at my office. And I didn't know what was happening, ma'am. And fortunately for me, my managing editor at the time, Zain Samar, he had a good eyesight to where I was, and he saw that there was something wrong with me at that time. So he came to my desk, and we spoke a little bit, and I was, in between breaths, I was able to explain that I can't breathe. And then he took me out of the office, took me to the boardroom, and where, he managed to calm me down. And I thought I was having a heart attack because I had a massive pain in my chest, and then he said I must go home. I called the doctor, and fortunately she could see me, and I calmed down a little bit. I went to get my car and I drove myself to the doctor. And I got there and I was telling her my symptoms. I couldn't breathe, my heart was racing, there was almost something was pressing on my chest. And she did tests. She put stuff on me, a whole lot of tests. After about half an hour, she came back with those tests, and we sat, and she told me that physically I was fine. you know, my heart was in rhythm, you know, like my blood sugars and stuff, they were all within the limits. I was good physically. But then she said, but what happened? And that it sounded like I had had a panic attack, and she asked me what happened. So then I explained to her that no, I received this email, and it said that the last suspect in my father's murder had died, and that his death meant that justice in the traditional sense of somebody being held accountable for my dad's murder, that door was now closed to us. And the doctor, bless her heart, she said to me that I had a hole in my soul that needed healing, ma'am. And she asked that I see a counselor. And from...
You want to carry on, or would you like to take some time?
I'll be fine.
Don't you want to take a seat? It's 5 to 1. Would you rather take the lunch adjournment at this stage?
My lady, yes, it is almost 1. We're not far from the end, but maybe this would be an appropriate time for the lunch adjournment.